Hi everyone, welcome again to today's webinar about business analytics at Macquarie University. So thank you for taking time out to join us at this postgraduate virtual fair. I'm Luke. I'm currently working with the Macquarie staff in the Future Students team, and I'm the host of the session today. Today we're very fortunate to have George Milunovich. That's right, George? Thank you.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
And he's here to talk about the Masters of Business Analytics today. So we're going to be running a bit of a live Q&A session, but first George will give us a bit of a presentation about the program and what it entails. So feel free, we've got a chat option at the bottom where you can put in your questions there, but we'll also open it up to everyone, and you can feel free to just say it as if we're in a real life, as if we weren't virtual. And don't worry if you do miss anything, because this will all be recorded and put up on YouTube. So just to introduce today's speaker again, George is an associate professor and program director for the Masters of Business Analytics in Macquarie's Business School. George has contributed to several areas of econometrics and empirical economics, including forecasting, modeling of volatility, and the identification of structure and causal models. Now, I'll pass it over to you, George. You can get the presentation underway.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Luke. Thanks for that. So yes, well, basically, let me just quickly say that Master of Business Analytics is a new degree. This is actually our first year of running the degree, the program. So, and although it's the first year, we already have around 90 people enrolled in this program, which is actually quite a large number of students for a postgrad, master program. So I guess I'll give a presentation of why I think it would be interesting to study business analytics, and then maybe we can have a discussion and see what you guys think. The main motivation for this program is the amount of data that we currently have and what we do with this data. So, you know, the last few months have really emphasized what's been happening even before the pandemic, and what's been happening is that more and more people work remotely, and there is a huge amount of data that's collected all over the world on all kinds of platforms. So business analytics kind of tries to look at this data, and we try to analyze it and understand, from a business perspective, understand our clients and our stakeholders, all stakeholders, clients, customers, suppliers, and so on, trying to make operations more efficient, basically. So I'll just start by giving some numbers here. So it's quite amazing, but apparently there is 40 trillion gigabytes of data in the digital universe. 90%, surprisingly, I was really surprised when I was collecting these numbers, but about 90% of all data that's available has been created over the last 2 years. And I suspect, and this is mainly to do with the Internet of Things. A lot of things are coming online. It's like our digital assistants, light bulbs, all kinds of things are now sending data that's being recorded. In addition to, more and more people actually conducting their businesses online, purchasing stuff on Amazon and so on. So 90% of data collected over the last 2 years of all data that's available out there. There's about 2.5 billion gigabytes of data generated every day. So I don't know where all the data is stored, but that's what's been happening. Social media appears to account for about 33% of all time spent online. And when you're on social media, everything you do is being stored somewhere, right? So a lot of data. In 2017, The Economist, the magazine, says that data has replaced oil as the world's most valuable resource. So how's that possible? Like, why would data be a valuable resource? So I'll discuss a little bit about that. Also, 97.2% of Fortune 1000 companies are investing in analytics and big data and AI. In the US, so before the pandemic, basically, there was a prediction that there would be about 2.7 million jobs in the analytics and data science in 2020. And also this market's been growing at about 14% per annum. So now, what do we do with all this data? Well, basically, let me just, like a quick case study of Netflix and how they utilize our data. So as you know, Netflix is a streaming company. They're a technology company. They've got a huge, huge technology and development budget. And this budget's been growing. So from like 650 million in 2015 going to 1.3 billion in 2018 and still growing. And so what do they do with this huge budget? Well, they produce movies, they also produce TV series, but the large chunk of this budget is going towards analytics. So what does that mean? Well, they collect information on searches, ratings, you know, which programs you rewatch, which programs you fast forward or stop, or, you know, they collect all this. And what do they do with this? They basically analyze this data, and then they're trying to understand their customers. So they use the analysis for in several ways. One is to discover new series or movies that would be new big hits. And they basically actually finance and produce some of them. So depending on how their previous series have performed, you know, they very carefully analyze statistically what makes a good movie or what makes a good series, and then they invest in similar projects. Another thing they do is they provide personalized recommendations. And this is really driven by your actions on the Netflix platform. So they try to understand you, and, you know, if you like comedy and sci-fi, or, you know, they're not going to play you a horror movie ad or something like that. So it really like kind of understanding the customer. And what's this resulted in is that Netflix estimates that they've saved about $1 billion in analytics per year, just by understanding the clients, understanding what their customers want. They estimate that they save about $1 billion a year. And this source, $1 billion, comes from a paper in a journal, ACM Transactions on Management Information Systems, which the actual report, the paper was written by 2 people who work at Netflix. So it's not like outside researchers coming, it's actually people who work in analytics for Netflix have estimated this number. So you can look it up online if you're interested in that study. So what is business analytics? Well, as it says here, so it's a process of collecting, number one, collecting, storing and analyzing data in order to get some insight and drive future business planning. So it's really about business. And it facilitates a data-driven approach to decision-making, really trying to optimize all kinds of operations across the business. So that's kind of in a nutshell what business analytics is about. It's about collecting, storing, and analyzing data in order to provide to gain efficiency. Now, how we do that is a different thing. Basically, there are several steps. So as you can see, we start with data gathering, and with online platforms, that's already kind of built in those platforms. Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, you know, all of these Officeworks, they all store data every single action you do on their websites gets stored for further analysis. I know people get freaked out, and there are actually privacy concerns about this as well, which we discuss. So not just in the Master Business Analytics, we also discuss ethics and privacy concerns in regards to storing data and how to, most of these companies, although they gather the data, once the data gets to the analysis stage, it's largely anonymized. So meaning that the analysts do not necessarily always see all of your data. There is some database where all the data is stored, but once the data is pulled out of the database, maybe the names get left out. So we do some basic analysis on this. And then we need to do statistical modeling, really, because analytics really relies on statistical modeling a lot. And you'll see later now, I'll talk a bit about our program. Most of our subjects have some content on statistical modeling. Once you develop a model for your data, then you make a prediction from a model, right? And once a prediction is made, then you try to communicate this prediction to management, because management doesn't always understand all the technical details. So you really need to kind of convey what you find. And then that later leads to formulating business decisions. So you can see it's kind of a really, really broad field, going from, you know, engineering and data gathering, developing databases, to communication and to formulating business decisions. So there is scope for, you know, for all types of people to work in this area. You don't have to be a programmer, you don't have to be a statistical modeler, you could be in communication, business decisions, and so on. So a really, really wide area. Possible, as I said, possible analytics job paths. So the main one kind of you would see in, you know, newspaper article ads and so on, is the data analyst or data scientist. And that's probably the most widely recognized analytics job description. You're collecting data, you're analyzing and presenting. So for this type of job, you really need a broad level, you know, you need to be familiar with a number of different areas. It's not sufficient to be able to, you know, maybe do some Python programming, or it's not sufficient to be able to do statistical modeling. It's not sufficient to be able to write nice reports and present charts. You have to be able to do all of this and to do it well. So this would be like the main job description of a data analyst: collecting data, analyzing, presenting. There are lots of other jobs as well, like the, you know, market research analyst, management analyst that try to improve business operations and so on. Big data analytics specialist. I'll talk a bit more about this one, and lots of other types of jobs in this area. Now, where are these jobs? So 60% of analytics jobs are in finance and insurance, professional services, and IT. So it's not really just IT, you know, companies like, I would say Amazon is kind of IT because most of their business is done online. But in Australia especially, we don't really have such a large IT sector. So in Australia, it's mainly telecoms, telecommunication companies, finance, insurance. Also government provides a large number of jobs in this area. There are more and more job ads for data analysts, you know, placed by the government. Now, if you look at the job ads and you look at what the recruiters say, so recruiters say that machine learning, big data, and data science positions are the most challenging to recruit, meaning that basically there are not enough applicants in these areas, not enough people looking for jobs in these areas, and they are very challenging to recruit from the company point of view. So the fastest growing roles are data scientists and data analytics. analysts, and about 39, so 40% of data scientists and analyst positions require a master or a PhD. So I think there is a question here from Frederick. How does COVID-19, so I'll just maybe address this quickly because I just saw the message. How does COVID-19 affect big data industry? I think strangely, I think COVID's actually making the industry stronger. If you look at the share market response to COVID-19, right, everything dropped suddenly. Only one sector of the whole global economy kept going up, and that's the tech sector. And that's because everyone's moving online. All the businesses are making transitions to, we have online teaching, right? Basically moving their operations online, which is creating even more data, which is creating even more demand. I suspect, I don't have the numbers, this is just my kind of opinion, but I speak to people who work in the industry, and I know that by moving everything online, they have more demand for analysts, and they have more demand for data scientists. Okay, so hopefully, Frederick, that kind of answers your question. Now, what are the main skills, technical skills you would need? And if you look at job ads, Python, not sure if you're familiar with programming languages, but Python programming language comes in as #1. R is a statistical programming language. SQL or SQL is a kind of programming language used for to communicate with databases, and then visualization. So these are the main skills for a data analyst. In addition to being able to write really well and to present reports and communicate well. So so a little bit about our program. So we really have a strong focus on real world applications. And we teach all of those skills that I've just talked about that you find in job ads. So we teach computer programming, we teach databases, we teach applied statistics, we teach machine learning techniques, communication, ethical issues, data privacy, and security. In the final year of the program, we have a business analytics project where you basically put all of this together and you develop a project based on everything that you've learned in the program. So a lot of focus on real world application. Now, let me maybe speak a little bit about the course structure. So we have the units that we cover are selected from 3 what we call zones. So we have a foundation zone, which provides foundations. Depending on your background, we have a core zone that basically everyone does, which is compulsory. And then we have some flexible zone units, which are elective units. So I'll speak about these as well. So just three types of basically units. Now, admission points. So we actually have 4 different admission points. And the program, these depend on your qualifications, whether you have work experience, prior learning, and so on. So, and they actually vary in duration. So if you have so if you have a bachelor degree from any area, it doesn't have to be business analytics, doesn't have to be business related at all. For example, history or biology, or you could do drama studies or something. But if you have a bachelor degree without any prior business education, you could get into a 2-year program or equivalent part-time. Yes, it works for everyone. So, yep. Then we have if you've studied some econometrics or statistics, so you have some business units that you've done as a part of your undergrad degree, you could do a year and a half. Then we have another year and a half program for students who have done well in their undergrad degree. So if you have a weighted average of 65 or more, then basically you could get into this 1.5 year program. And lastly, if you've studied statistics or econometrics and you've done it really well in your undergrad bachelor degree, 65 or more, then you could actually get into a 1 year program and you would be able to complete the whole master degree in 1 year. So 4 points of entry, depending on your qualifications. Let me just talk maybe about the 2 year program. So a 2 year program, as I said, this is for people with a bachelor degree without any prior business, statistics, econometrics units in their undergrad degree. So a 2 year program would be equivalent to 160 credit points, which means, okay, I didn't say how many points, how many units. You would actually do, each unit is worth 10 points. Yeah, so you would do, I guess, 16 units. And they would be split between 4 foundation units because you don't have any prior knowledge, right? This is for people without any business statistics and so on. So you would do 4 foundation units, you would do 8 core units, and then you would do 4 flexible units, flexible zone units, electives basically. And this is maybe like a recommended program for somebody who would start in session 2, 2020, this year, right? So we have session 2 this year, then we have next year, we have two sessions, and then last session in year 3. And this would be a recommended program. So also we've color coded these units. So like green are generally less challenging units. These are foundation units. So you can see like foundation units would be fundamentals of computer science, mathematical modeling, econometrics and business statistics, and then you can actually choose one elective foundation unit. Then blue units would be medium level difficulty. So for instance, so first you would do the foundations, then in year 2, you would do like applied econometrics, you would do techniques in business analytics, you would do applied predictive analytics. This is actually my unit, applied predictive analytics. So I would really highly recommend it. It's the best of all these units. Just kidding, but it's not too hard either. It's coded in blue, right? And then we have some really, really challenging units, which are coded in red, like data and business visualization for business. We have a business analytics project and so on. And then in the last semester or session, you can do flexible or elective units. So this would be for someone without any prior studies in business or statistics. A 1.5 year program, so basically 3 sessions or 3 semesters, you would need 12 units. So this is for someone who is entering with a bachelor degree, which covers study in statistics or econometrics. Or maybe you have some relevant work experience for which you can get credit for. So you don't need to do a full 2 year program, you can do a 1.5 years, right? So because you assume to have some knowledge, you've already studied statistics and econometrics, you don't need to do any foundation units. You will go straight into core units, and then you would do 4 flexible zone units or electives. So core units are prescribed, electives, and 4 electives. So it would look like this basically. You would have 3 semesters, 3 sessions of study. If you start next session, you do 4 units, mainly from core zone, basically units. You can do some, these are recommended. You don't actually have to stick to this. You can mix and change these units as you see kind of fit. Then I also mentioned a 1.5-year program where basically you come with a bachelor degree, but you don't have any statistics. But you've done well. So weighted average, a mark of 65% or more, right? In this case, you would do 4 foundation units, 8 core units, and you don't need to do any flexible zone units. So this allows you to cut it down to a 1.5-year program. And then lastly, as I said, we have a 1-year program. This is for somebody with a bachelor degree, which covers studies in statistics and econometrics, and also somebody who did really well in their undergrad degree. In this entry point, basically, you don't need to do any foundations. You would only do 8 core units, and you don't need to do any flexible units. So this would allow you to actually complete the master program in 2 sessions in 1 year. So you would do session 2, 2020, and then you would do session 1, 2021, I guess. Yeah. So this is a list of our electives. So if you remember, I said foundation zone has 3 units which are prescribed. They're basically compulsory, and you can choose 1 unit out of these 3 for the foundation zone. So this is if you have no prior studies in statistics, you would do a foundation zone, and you can choose between accounting and finance. And again, this principle of finance subject, which I teach, is a very, very good unit. I would recommend that one. So that's for someone who hasn't done foundation zone, who hasn't done any prior statistics. Now, core zone has 3 electives. So there are 5 prescribed and 3 electives. And you can see some of them are very, very interesting, like forensic and data analytics, business process modeling, strategic management, applied marketing, and then we have a number of statistics units like generalized linear models and so on. Now, to me, like if you look at the flexible zone electives, and here we get to choose 4 units. 4 units for all flexible zone units are electives. So you get to choose 4 units from this list. And this list has some really, really fascinating units. We were going through the list and I was thinking, I would actually really like to do some of these units. They have, for instance, payments, cryptocurrencies, and blockchain. So that sounds super interesting to me. Digital finance, blockchain for competitive advantage, like really up-to-date machine learning, big data technologies, cybercrime and cyber policing, if you're inclined to do that kind of work. So that's all possible within the program. So that's pretty much, I think, all I have to say about the structure of the program. I just conclude here with, a lot of people are still confused with the definition of business analytics, and I even talked to my colleagues from other departments and they're like, well, what's business analytics? Is that statistics? Is that marketing? Or, and then, I Googled and it says, a data scientist is a statistician who lives in San Francisco. And so like, haha, that's obviously a joke, a bad joke. And it's wrong. If this is a multiple choice quiz and you get these 2 questions, that's not the right answer. But the second one actually, although it's a joke as well, it really kind of makes sense to me. So a data scientist is someone who is better at statistics than any software engineer and better at software engineering than any statistician. And this would really, I think to me, it really makes sense because a data scientist or a data analyst is someone who needs to be able to pull data out of a database, analyze the data, present the data. It's really kind of a mix of skills that you need. And you don't really need to be super excellent at doing all of those things, you know, because there are specialists that specialize. If you really need a specialist, you can call for help, but you really need to be able to do most of this work yourself. So it's kind of somebody who does a little bit of everything, and I think this actually really explains it well. So I think, yeah, I think that's my presentation basically regarding this program. You know, the potential jobs and what, you know, what kind of job one could actually get once you complete our master program. So maybe I can take some questions if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you, George. Virtual round of applause for you after that, and thanks for a very informative presentation. I especially like the statistics on social media. It's good to know I'm not alone in how much I'm absorbing Facebook. So we've had a few questions come in, and like we said before, feel free to keep either messaging the chat if you feel comfortable with that, or as well, you can put your hand up or unmute yourself, and you can also just ask our associate professor if you would like to do that. So we've had a few come through in the chat, and one that you might be able to help with is, what are the similarities between business analytics and data analytics? And how is this course similar or different to a master's in data science?
Right, yeah, that's a very, very good question. I guess they're very similar, and potentially you could be going for the same type of job when you finish those 2 degrees. Because as you can see, like in our list of elective units, we have a lot of computing units, which are these that's, you know, these are computer science unit codes. So we cover a lot of that. We cover a lot of statistical theory. So in terms of actually getting a job, there is not that much difference. However, our program would allow someone without technical skills to also get a job in the area. So you don't, a data scientist would really specialize in doing technical stuff. Whereas a business analyst can do technical stuff, but doesn't necessarily need to go in that direction. You know, you could go into more like strategy modeling based on the analysis that come out of statistical analysis and so on. So it's a broader, I think it's a broader area. It's less specialized than, you know, we have a Master of Data Science that's offered by the computing department. And that master would basically take a lot of these flexible units, and you would be constrained to those units. Whereas with us, as you can see, if you're inclined, if you're a technical person, you can pretty much not replicate, but you can get a degree which is very similar to the Master of Data Science. But if you're not a very technical person, if you come from from an accounting background, a marketing background, then you can use your existing skills to specialize in a slightly more unique area. You know, you can really structure your degree to suit your skills and interests. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. So if someone was to do a graduate diploma in data science, would they be able to do a master's later on?
So to be honest, because this is like the first year we're doing it, I'm not entirely sure. I think there would be, I suspect, a number of units would be, yeah, you could potentially continue with your study to get the master. Although I'm not 100% sure, because as I said, it's our first year of running this. And we are still still fine-tuning the program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perhaps that question was a bit too specific there from Frederick, but feel free to reach out to Macquarie with that if you have specific units you want to get prior learning recognized from. So we've had another question about.
So and also I would say
Yep.
sorry Luke, I would say that.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, because we have these 4 different entry points where we actually give credits for previous studies. You know, so if somebody's done some of our units, they could potentially, instead of a 1.5 years, they could get into a 1-year program. If they're given credit for their previous studies. It all depends. I mean, they would have to speak to admissions and then get this properly assessed.
Mm-hmm. Of course,
yep.
Of course. Yep. So we've had a lot of more questions about the practical nature of the degree. So, and you have talked a bit about what type of career opportunities are available for graduates. So yep. Could you just, a few students have asked about what type of career that could they really build from the Masters of Business Analytics?
So these girls, we actually looked at job ads, you know, and a lot of jobs are coming from the finance and insurance and from professional services. And usually these jobs would be advertised as a business analyst or a data analyst or a data scientist. And I think for all of those positions, because all these analyst positions, the new analyst positions, really require data analysis. And not just data analysis, but they also require, they will often specify some kind of programming skills. So given that we teach all of that, you know, I think our graduates would be in a pretty good shape to apply to any of those jobs.
Yep, for sure.
I mean, it all depends also on their prior work history, experience, and so on. If they're going for starting level positions, then they would be in a really good shape because they will have all the skills necessary for those jobs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So what type of case studies and work would students be getting when they're doing this master's program? Are they going to be working on kind of just hypothetical problems?
No. So, okay, let me maybe, because I am most familiar with my own subject, which is applied predictive analytics. This one in blue, BASA 8001. So in this, for instance, in that unit, we look at various real-world forecasting problems. So it's kind of, okay, a long story, but there is a website where it's a platform where businesses put their forecasting problems to data scientists, freelancers basically. And these people, you know, freelancing data scientists attempt to make predictions to these problems, and then they provide their solution. It's almost run like a competition. Who provides the best prediction? And the first 3 places usually awarded prizes. And these really vary from, you know, $500 to $2-3 million, depending on the difficulty of the forecasting problem.
Very good.
Yeah. So Microsoft, Google, other medical kind of institutions also put their forecasting problems, and really anyone can have a go at it. But these are pretty tough competitions. So in the applied predictive analytics, the whole unit is designed around these prediction problems. We take the problems that businesses have put, you know, given put on the platform for people in analytics to try to tackle. And we take 3 of those problems and we work on them and we try to outperform everyone else on the platform in terms of providing, the best, most accurate predictions. And, so the unit is based, there are programming tasks, there are tasks in writing up our solutions, and the whole unit is basically designed around these real world issues that are very current in the industry. Yep.
So real world issues and some real world prizes too. That's good to
hear. we actually look at the competitions that have already expired. So we're not going to win any prizes, but these were, current competitions until last year. And there are other competitions there now that, once you get skills in doing these things, you can just, you can even put them on your resume because you know how to do these things.
Yeah, super practical.
It's really like it's a concrete skill that you can apply to all different kinds of issues and situations. Yeah.
And I guess this might kind of lead into another question we've had about whether students will have opportunities to mingle with and possibly meet future employers, maybe doing programs like this.
Yeah, so this business analytics project is another project where this is also a new project that will run for the first time next semester, next session. So I think in that project, they will also be looking at some, so for instance, my unit is really looking at this platform and at, forecasting predictive platform where everything is done online, pretty much. And if you can do that, you go there and you basically provide your solution and you compete with everyone else. And it depends on how good you are on whether you get rewarded or not. Other units like business analytics project, I think they actually look at some other types of projects where I'm not 100% sure yet because I don't run that unit myself, but I think they will be talking to the industry as well and maybe having a little bit more interaction with industry rather than going through a digital platform. Yeah.
Yep. Fantastic. So is semester 2 still going to be open? We had a question before about COVID-19. Can you give us a bit of an idea about what that teaching situation will be like and what it'll be like in the classroom for students if semester 2 was to open?
Yeah, so I was told, I just go by what I was told by my head of department that so semester 2 is going ahead and everything will be done online, I think, for all the units relevant to our degree anyway. I think some units are going back to campus, but I think they'll be like in biology or medical sciences where you actually have to go to a lab and, you have to dissect a frog or something. But for us, I think everything will be online, which actually, it's not a bad idea. I was a little worried, when we started with this in session 1, but I think the transition was quite good. And I'm getting really good feedback from students as well. We record all of our lectures now. We put them on iLearn, which is our online platform. Then we have live Q&A sessions. We have live live streamed consultations via Zoom. We have discussion forums. There is actually, I'm getting too many questions, in fact, because it's so easy now just to connect and chat to your lecturer, chat to the tutors, and everyone's more accessible, I think. So maybe it's not such a bad thing from the point of view of running a program, and especially for business analytics, because this is really, I think the whole industry is about data, is about doing stuff online. So yeah, maybe doing a course online is not a bad idea.
Good practice, maybe. Maybe
Yes.
that's it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You know, the only thing this doesn't really work well with is you know, the social aspect and being able to chat to your classmates and lecturers in person. But maybe that will change in session 2. Yeah, I don't know.
Are there still opportunities for students to be able to reach out? Because, like you said, there isn't that one-on-one being able to see your professor, yes, after class. So can you still do that?
We've done it differently. We kind of I pre-record my lectures. I put them online. Students watch those lectures, and then we have a live session, a Zoom session, where we have Q&A regarding those recorded lectures. And this actually works better than doing a live lecture session, because students can watch this and, you know, write down their questions, and then we have like an hour and a half, 2 hours to discuss any questions that they may have regarding the recorded session. And then on top of that, like in my current unit, Principles of Finance, we actually run 8 hours of live streamed consultations every week.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so
great. Yeah.
There is a lot of opportunity to actually, you know, consult one-on-one or in groups or whichever way you want to do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good to hear students still get that support there.
Yeah.
Checking the time, we might only have room for one more question. We just had one come in before. This is from, I don't know if you can see this one, but is a data analysis position available in most businesses? Is it more of a temporary contract period, or can you give us an idea about how that would work? More of a practical approach, I guess.
Sorry, which one is this? I'm just looking at the questions.
Yeah. From Huang Vu. Are they usually a temporary period contract, or what is the nature?
That really depends. There are a lot of temporary projects which would not be for a starting level position. They would be for more advanced data analysts. But a lot of companies also now have analytics. I know that Wesfarmers, which is, I'm not sure if you're familiar, Wesfarmers is one of the biggest retailers in Australia. They own Officeworks, Coles, Bunnings, lots of businesses around the country. They've actually set up their full-time, a large data science department that does data science for the whole group. And then on top of that, each of the individual companies, Coles, Officeworks, Bunnings, they have their own data science departments as well. So there are full-time, permanent positions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right. That's good to hear.
But there are actually a lot of temporary projects as well around it. If you have experience and you are like a senior data scientist or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep, and just one last one from Susan. So if you haven't studied statistics previously, can you go straight into the master's level in SANS? Yes,
so if you haven't done statistics previously, can you still see my screen? So
yep, still see it.
TwoYear program is for people without any prior study in statistics. All you have to have is a bachelor qualification. And then it would take basically 2 years full-time, which is 4 semesters, right? So because you haven't done any statistics, you would need to do these foundation units. You would be doing fundamentals of computer science, which is a basic computer science subject. Mm. You would do some mathematical modeling. You would do some business statistics. And then you can choose one more elective foundation unit. And that would be either accounting, you would either do accounting or finance. So that would give you enough background knowledge in the first semester, so that you can go into, continue with the rest of the cohort who have prior studies in relevant areas. So instead of a year and a half, you would go for a 2-year program, and that would basically bring you up to the level where you can continue to study in this area.
Fantastic. Well, that might wrap us up today, as we have a few more postgraduate sessions happening later tonight. So thank you again, George, for all your time, and thanks again, everyone, for joining us and for sending in your questions. For any questions that weren't answered, the postgraduate team will reach out to you via email. Aside from that, you can always reach out to the future students team at Macquarie with any extra questions. If this has got your brain thinking about extra things, you can do this via email or from calling us. And just, thank you again for attending today's webinar, and hope to see you again soon.
All right, thanks very much, everyone.